What is happening, everybody? Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock. A big slate tonight. Eric and I have 15 games to go through here. Every single team is playing tonight, Eric, and gives us a lot of options. Despite all the options, though, some condensed chalk, not unexpected chalky spots, but nonetheless, about as chalky spots as I could remember for a slate like this. I mean, we've got a nearly 40% owned Chase Burns. He's got an 8.1 ERA. And I mean, I've been on this for a minute now. Can we just throw the Rockies in the trash? Can we level Coors Field and bring it to sea level? Can we do away with this stupid team where they're so shitty that it doesn't matter who's pitching for them? Doesn't matter where they're. This is just chalk every single Rockies game now. It's a problem on all the slates. So you got Chase Burns, who is an 8.1 ERA. He's nearly 40% owned, and it's justified. How are you doing, Eric? You ready for this slate?
Yeah, I mean, we covered the slate yesterday after our show as I was putting together stuff for betting for Thursday night. It's wildly chalky at the top. It should be wildly chalky at the top. We have 15 games to be parsing through. They kept the Cleveland and White Sox one on this one, even with the doubleheader, and long extended lunch for them, I suppose, this afternoon. But yeah, I'm ready to rock. Hopefully, you guys are too.
And any general overarching thoughts you have on the slate before we get started? Anything, whether it's weather related or anything like that? The weather, unfortunately, ended up playing a factor last night when it didn't look like it was going to. So super annoying because my lineups were dead before they even had a chance to be in play or anything like that. Also super annoying because I had texted you this, but who was my home run pick last night? It was also my single entry lineup, Luis Robert. And what happens? Luis Robert homers earlier today in the exact same matchup against Logan Allen, but didn't matter because the game got rained out last night. So I'm still pretty annoyed about the weather situation from last night. But anything that's concerning to you for today?
I don't think I would have wanted to carry over their 2 hits of baseball into my 5-man stack, though, from yesterday, to be fair. So I don't think it would have mattered in any way, shape, or form from a DFS perspective if this was the performance that we would have gotten from them last night. But, the wind's going to be blowing out a little bit more in the afternoon for that game than what it was here for the afternoon. So it was blowing more across the field. Now it looks to be blowing a little bit more out on Windfinder, which I kind of use for all my, usually I use it for PGA the most, but I've been using it for baseball a lot more over the course of the last year. Windfinder has the wind out a little bit more here for the afternoon game. That's echoed at a couple of different sites as well. Overarching thoughts, play who you like in terms of stacks. I mean, we're going to be able to play whoever we want in terms of stacks. So I'm going to try to find very small pronounced edges in the stacks department, but I think the edge really comes down to utilizing the Sims to make the best portfolio of lineups you possibly can and be ready to rock that direction, because there's no chalk that we really have to worry about in the bats category.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we have the most popular team on the slate is 8% owned, and there's a total of 2 teams on the entire slate more than 5% owned as a stack. This may be shocking to you guys. One of those teams is the Cincinnati Reds. So not only do you get all this ownership going to Chase Burns, but then the Reds, which also it's 7% ownership. So in no way do I view it as being problematic for the slate, but just kind of symbolic to what we were talking about before, where it's a chalky pitcher and then the second most popular offense, it's still the Reds. And that's just going to be rinse and repeat whenever the Rockies play on any kind of slate here. But let's talk about the pitching options here. And we'll begin with the pay-up options at pitcher. And when you're looking at the expensive pitchers, the one who stands out the most is Skubal for a couple of reasons. First off, he's ridiculously good. But the other thing, too, is that while he is popular, he is $12,000. So there is a big price gap between him and everybody else. MLB DFS was priced like this for the longest time, and it kind of hasn't been like that for most of this year, where we used to regularly have like DeGrom be $12,000, $13,000. Chris Sale would be $12,000, $13,000, and they'd be $2,000, $3,000 more expensive than all the other pitchers on the slate. That's not exactly how pricing works as much in these days, but Skubal has become so good that he's kind of worked himself into that category. So Skubal is $12,000. He is currently pulling just under 40% ownership. I want to talk about him as an individual piece just because he is in his own price range, but is still super popular. How do you want to handle Skubal when he's this expensive and still this popular?
I would be playing damn near 100% if it wasn't for like a tiny bit of weather issues. And the Sims love him, which makes me even more like inclined to just jam him here in this spot. Seattle is one of those teams that you get them outside of their home ballpark. You generally want to try to roster them when they're in advantageous spots. This is about the least advantageous spot ever. It's a spacious ballpark in Detroit, but not one that's good for the power that exists with the Rosarena, who started to come on of late. JP Crawford, who has been a serviceable leadoff hitter, had a home run in the New York stint. Julio Rodriguez needs a break. I tell you, who needs an all-star break is Julio Rodriguez. But of course, Cal Raleigh. I mean, this neutralizes his game to some extent. I mean, lefty power plays up in Seattle there, but now you're putting him on the right side in Detroit. It is far less advantageous. Not that he isn't good. He has basically no splits at this point in time, but just kind of comparing this ballpark to what he's dealt with traditionally. There are some storms in the area, but the wind's blowing in. It's only around 70% humidity. Barometric pressure isn't crazy, and it's 83 degrees, which is about normal this time of year. So it's a great spot for Tarek Skubal. You should just be playing a lot of him, I think, already. And I would be damn near jamming him if it weren't for middle inning. It looks like there might be some issues in terms of radar.
Yeah. So one thing that I was just pulling up here as you were talking through it, because he has been miserable as of late. Do you know what the WRC plus is for Julio Rodriguez in July?
No, but I'm going to guess it's 12 based on the way you said that.
A little high. It is 0. Got a zero WRC plus. Julio Rodriguez has been miserable. His slash line in July is 111, 158, 194. No power, not getting on base. That's a very poor combination. So Julio Rodriguez, to your point, has been really miserable as of late. Tarek Skubal, to me, you can see what the Sims are showing here too, getting him in a little bit less than half the lineups. I think the ownership is warranted. It's just how easily is he going to fit into the lineup you build? If you're able to pay up for him, cool. I wouldn't force getting to him, though. Is that fair to say?
Yes. What you said is perfect. I have no notes.
Other pay up options. We've got Joe Ryan. We've got Paul Skeens. They're going to be pitching against each other. Joe Ryan, who you typically say whenever he starts that you're not a Joe Ryan guy. Well, he's
no. Joe Ryan's the one guy that I can get behind.
Oh,
it was Pablo Lopez, and now Joe Ryan's the one guy that, to some extent, I don't have the warm and fuzzies with him the way that I did for Pablo Lopez. 4 kids, and I got to take all of that ass to showbiz. But Joe Ryan, he's been by far our ace this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any kind of pushback against that. I like Joe Ryan. I don't know why I thought that he was one of the many. I know why. It's because you typically hate every Twins pitcher.
Correct.
So I just kind of lumped him in with every other pitcher that's ever pitched for your team.
Yes.
I will say this. Paul Skeens is clearly way better than Joe Ryan. We're just looking at it on a talent standpoint. I find it really hard to back to back Paul Skeens in DFS at this point in time because I don't know what his pitch count is going to look like going forward. We came into the season knowing that Paul Skeens was going to have some kind of non-determined innings limit. We didn't know what it was going to be. He was asked about it before the season. I think his quote was he expects to pitch more than last year, but he doesn't expect to throw 240 innings, which doesn't really give you a whole lot of information. And here's what's happened. The Pittsburgh Pirates are terrible. They're not a team that's in playoff contention. And the last 3 starts for Paul Skeens, he's thrown 78 pitches in 4 innings, 88 pitches in 5 innings, and then last start 78 pitches in 5 innings. Is he just going to be a guy who throws around 80 pitches the rest of the season, Eric? Because that's kind of what I feel like is going to happen here.
You and I sure hope so. I got a couple hundo on Zach Wheeler to win a Cy Young at plus 700 is where I got it. You got it at plus 800. A lot of the Discord got it at plus 800. What?
I started betting at plus 1100 and then kept betting him down. But I've got some Zach Wheeler positions. You do as well. A lot of people in Eric's Discord do because it was something I posted in there. And what is it like minus 150 now?
I mean, it was one of the great self-serving things I've ever done, being like, Greg, I would love to have you post in there for futures. You know why? Because I want to know whenever I need to pull the trigger on that stuff immediately. And I was about a day late, ended up getting plus 700 there, but looks pretty good when he's minus 140 on FanDuel right now, minus 110 best available. It's basically a pick'em between him and Paul Skeens, minus 110, minus 115, both sides of it here at the moment. And I'm with you. I'm hoping that he continues to be limited because I think that was a big part of your analysis. And I think that has come to fruition in way too prominent of a way. In 4 of his last 5 games, he's gone for 5 innings or less. 4 of his last 5 games. Now, in those, he's given up 2 earned runs. That's unbelievable to give up 2 earned runs in 4 of 5 in which you have pitched less than 5. I guess one of them he got lit up in Milwaukee. So I guess I have to amend that. In 4 of his last 5, he has given up 2 earned runs or 0, which again, 0 in 3 of them. And he did not eclipse 5 innings in any one of those ones where he gave up 0 earned runs. So it is not a reflection of him having a good start or a bad start. It's not a reflection of how good he is at pitching, because I think we all recognize that. It's not even, I would say his strikeout upside is immense here, similar to like in Seattle, where he could rack up 9 or 10 against Minnesota, this version of Minnesota where you get Buxton back in the lineup leading off. Yeah, he's definitely a lethal bat at the top of the lineup, but he's also a guy who is going to strike out a metric ton. In fact, 26.6% amongst the leadoff hitters is third when you take O'Neal Cruz off the board amongst the leadoff hitters, because he's generally been in the 5 hole now for the last month, even though he had been a leadoff hitter once upon a time there in Pittsburgh. So Minnesota is a team with Buxton and Wallner and Clemens all in that lineup. Castro up there in the 2 hole. He's right around a 24% K guy. He could get to 10. But I still think the name recognition gets him pushed into that 15, 20% mark no matter what. And I just want to play 0 today. I'm just going to play 0. I know he's a fun commodity and he could make me look very, very dumb. But the number of times he's going to make you look dumb relative to the times you don't need him at 10K or 10.5 on this slate is, I think, going to outweigh it over the long run.
Yeah, and what I was getting at there is Paul Skeens is much better than, and this isn't even a knock on Joe Ryan. It's just Paul Skeens is that good. Paul Skeens is way better than Joe Ryan, but I have so much more interest in Joe Ryan for DFS today than I do in Paul Skeens, because Joe Ryan just has such a longer leash. Even though the Twins have struggled, they're a team that's actually in playoff contention. The Pirates are not remotely in playoff contention, and it looks like it's starting to limit the workload of Paul Skeens. They're starting to be cautious with him. So he shows up in some lineups here in the Sims, but I personally would rather be light on that just because of concerns about how deep he's going to be able to work into games. Joe Ryan pitching at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates, I think he's a pretty good target for today.
Yes, he is. He is a very good target for today.
Here's where stuff gets a little bit weird on the slate, Eric, because we have, and people are asking about FanDuel in the chat. Don't worry. After we get through the DraftKings pitchers, we'll talk about FanDuel. A lot of the stuff is going to apply for DraftKings and FanDuel, especially when we talk about stacks, because there's just no chalk today. It's just which teams do we think are going to be the highest scoring? And then we'll go over that because nothing's more than 8% owned. But pitching now in the 9K range, nobody is owned. In the 8K range, nobody is owned. We're going to have to talk about Chase Burns when we get to the 7K range. But considering the size of the slate, there are these few chalk spots, and then just everything else is kind of unknown. So let's go through some of these price ranges and see if there's anything that we like from a contrarian standpoint. In the 9K range, is there anybody contrarian that you like and are looking to roster in the 9K range? Is this Kodai Senga, Ranger Suarez, Carlos Rodon, and Logan Webb?
Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez has a 28% K rate against lefties. You're going to get a number of lefties, as you always do, the Cronenworth, the Gavin Sheets in that San Diego lineup that's going to, I think, make his K total look a lot better. I bet his Ks already. It was a low number, 4.5, and I just don't agree with it whatsoever. I also think one thing you want to think about now, too, is like, this is going to be the last start for a lot of these guys, but like teams are going to be more willing to go to the bullpen early if need be. But Ranger Suarez is one of those guys who can keep a clean sheet going for a long time. And that's kind of the interesting part of this. Cause if I'm not going to play Paul Skeens, Ranger Suarez had hit 7 innings in 5 consecutive before going up against Cincinnati. He only went 5 there in that one, 80 pitches. They really limited his count. And maybe that's just a choice that they're making here leading into the All-Star break. But I think this sets up nicely for them because they'll probably just have him get his regular start again on Thursday. He's probably their best option. If Zach Wheeler's going to pitch an inning in the All-Star game, he's going to pitch tomorrow in San Diego. So we'll have a better idea of how they're going to handle their main guys here. Christopher Sanchez, I think, is going on Sunday. So it's going to be very important to kind of pay attention to some of those pitch counts from a betting perspective. For a DFS perspective, there's no ownership coming in, which is kind of like the reason that I'm willing to kind of go out there and say, all right, if I'm going to roll the dice, I want to get somebody who has proven to be able to get length. Again, 5-7 inning outings. The guy definitely can eat up innings. And then I think the strikeout stuff is better in this matchup with that slider against lefties specifically. 16.7% swinging strike rate for that specific pitch against left-handed hitters. There's going to be Jackson Merrill, Gavin Sheets, Jake Cronenworth, maybe another one. A really good potential lineup that you're getting here for Ranger Suarez.
Nothing that I'm liking in the 9K range. There are guys that I like that are contrarian, just not in this price range. If I'm getting up here, I'd just be like, I'd rather just find the few extra $100 to get up to Joe Ryan. So 9K range, nothing for me. How about the 8K range? Anybody that you're liking to be contrarian within the 8K range? The most popular 8K pitcher is a 2.9% owned Quinn Priester. So everything's contrarian here. I do have one guy who stands out to me. I'm curious anybody that you're liking in the 8K range.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing. Anthony Caparolo. I ended up looking up some of the quotes about him yesterday because I did want to bet his strikeouts and wanted to see. They said 85 pitches for that one start, and they had said it leading into that start over last weekend. I don't think it applies to this one. They haven't said anything explicitly, but I put him in for 90 pitches and he still looks pretty good. So I think that's an important differentiating piece is like there wasn't any announcement they said about his workload for this start, but they had said it previous to the other start that 85 pitches was going to be his cap. If you want to put it at 85 and slide the meter down a little bit, sounds great. That's still going to be 6 more pitches than I have Paul Skeens projected for at 79. So take that for what you will. But who are you going to say, Greg, one more time?
Yeah, so for me, it is going to be Grant Holmes. I know it's not a great strikeout matchup, but there's just random upside spots that he's generating a ton of swing and misses this year. And you get some of these individual starts for Grant Holmes, it's all of a sudden like, hey, look, 5 innings and 9 strikeouts against the Red Sox. Even though this was a matchup against the Rockies, 6 innings and 15 strikeouts against Colorado in that outing against them. He had a 10 strikeout outing against the Angels.
Colorado had 6 righties in the lineup, though. That was the big mistake that they made.
Well, their mistake is just existing in general. He has a 9 strikeout game against the Brewers.
I didn't mean to get off.
He has a ton of. He also has He has a 6-inning 9 strikeout game against the Dodgers this year. There are individual, and it doesn't. Even though it's the Rockies, 15 strikeouts against anybody is going to be pretty damn impressive of an outing. But I mean, Grant Holmes just has these games where he puts up 8, 9, 10 strikeouts. If he's going to be low owned, and we're trying to find some low owned pitchers to fit in. Like, I don't want to be playing 30% of him or anything, but he's definitely one of the contrarian considerations that I think has upside for today.
Yeah, so Grant Holmes, for those who aren't familiar, he has one of my favorite pitches in baseball. It is absolutely lethal, this slider. This slider is his primary pitch to righties. It's his secondary pitch to lefties, but his primary pitch, 35% of the time, Greg, 44.8% whiff percentage, 28.1% put away percentage, and then to kind of add on top of it, it has a 27.7% swinging strike rate against righties, 33.8% K rate against righties. He is so shut down against righties. My concern with him here, and the reason that I'm probably not going to play much of him, is he has just a 21.8% K rate against lefties, and then the lefties don't strike out for the St. Louis lineup. A 12% gap. When you're talking about upside in DFS for a specific pitcher, there's 5 lefties in the lineup for St. Louis today. And we know Nolan Arenado doesn't strike out a lot. Mason Wynn doesn't strike out a ton. Like, there are certain bats that are just going to be very difficult. His stuff, though, and this is kind of, I think, what you're alluding to, is he's low owned already. And he has this random upside that he'll get from time to time that just pops up out of nowhere. But he's really got to take advantage of guys like Wilson Contreras, Nolan Gorman, even from the left side. He's got to take advantage of Pedro Pajes and Victor Scott. He has got to strike them out a number of times, get 3 times through. And, again, Grant Holmes has one pitch that I like more than just about any pitch in baseball. It's like a top 10 pitch for me, but it is a St. Louis team that really does a good job at avoiding it. And then the splits for him are just really tough for me to get over.
Yeah. By the way, just Steve Miner in the chat said I thinks Webb is a contrarian play. He's definitely really good. I don't agree that it's a good matchup against the Dodgers, though. The Dodgers are tied for 3rd in baseball with a 119 WRC plus against right-hand pitching. And the teams that are in first, it's the Yankees and Cubs tied at 120 WRC plus. If you want to play Webb and you just want to do it on the back of Webb is really good, okay, but don't do it thinking it's an easy matchup against the Dodgers. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, that's recency bias. If you're looking at a last week sample size, don't do that. Like that's just too small of a sample size. And like what happens is there's like the I know ball crowd. Oh, I know what I'm watching. This is a team that's struggling. That has more to do with headlines. Baseball is a small sample size game with 4 and 5 at bats accumulated for your starters up against a starting pitcher and then playing the matchup game with rotational pieces. The Dodgers have not played to their strengths, that's for sure. Their offense has not been performing over the course of the last week, but that can very easily switch on a dime because it is a small sample size game. And despite what the media might say or anything else, you still aren't going to change your projection on Ohtani, Smith, Freeman, Conforto, Teoscar Hernandez. Like there's still some really quality hitters there amongst it. I don't mean Michael Conforto all the time, but he's been better of late, I suppose. If you want to go into the smaller sample sizes, 338x WOBA in the season is still more than serviceable. Logan Webb's good. I don't find a ton of strikeout upside for him here. And San Francisco's got a good bullpen. I would be shocked if you didn't see Rogers, Duvall, guys like that, especially knowing that the All-Star break's coming up on Sunday.
I want to let you guys know, if you are not a Stokastic sub, take advantage of our link join offer. I mean, if you want to sign up for any packages, you can definitely do that using the link down below in the YouTube description box. But if you want to get a free subscription to the website, sign up with any of our partners here on screen. For each one you sign up for, you get access to things like deposit bonuses, but also 1 free month of core sims of a single sport of your choosing for each one you sign up for. The newest partner, Wanna Parlay. We brought them on board this week. Wanna Parlay is a 100 match deposit bonus offer of up to $250. So put $250 in your pocket, get yourself a free month of MLB Sims. It's a good deal all around. Take advantage of it before these deals go away. You never know when they're going to come, when they're going to go. Wanna Parlay? I hadn't heard of them until this week. I didn't know who they were a couple of weeks ago, Eric. And then we found out about the site. We brought them on board, and there's other sites that have been part of the link join program and have pulled out of it. So take advantage of these while you guys still can. And also something like that 100 match deposit bonus offer up to $250. Great way to build your bankroll as well. And then that'll get you access to our Discord channel, which I'm going to check right now for questions. And there are a couple of them. The first one, it is from Sniffs1234. He wants to know, what are our thoughts on Joe Boyle for today? So, Eric, we could talk about the 7K pitchers now. Joe Boyle is $7,600 on the road against the Boston Red Sox. He's only 4% owned. Do you have interest in Joe Boyle, or are there other contrarian pitchers you like in the 7K range? There's a massive chalk pitcher who we're going to talk about in a second, but do you like Joe Boyle or any other contrarian options first to answer the question from Sniffs?
First off, Joe Boyle rules. Second off, I'm not going to play him today. I will be actively cheering against anybody and everybody that posted and then deleted this morning over 2.5 strikeouts for Drew Rasmussen. They deserve the death penalty in the slightest of ways, like maybe like whipping them with a wet noodle millions of times until they die. But yeah, Joe Boyle, he's really good. He's had good stuff, both with the Athletics and now starting off here, 7 strikeouts in his first 2. Just find it pretty risky. You don't know how teams are going to handle this with an opener for 2, maybe 3 innings out of Rasmussen here. You maybe could. It just has more to do with like the uncertainty and like people projecting it out. I think the most likely scenario is Rasmussen goes 2 innings, Boyle goes 4, maybe 5, and then you turn it over to a lot of bullpen arms because you have 3 days. Don't forget, like the All-Star game especially is like so starter heavy now, where it's like you don't get a lot of those bullpen arms that end up going and like closing down All-Star games or anything. So like Tampa Bay has nobody that's getting sent over there. Like just fire up everybody you have in the pen for 3 days, especially in a game that's already a bullpen session, and then roll it into tomorrow, do the same damn thing. So like Boyle looks good, but this is a Boston team that has now gotten healthier. They're adding Bregman to the brigade now as well. We talked about Yoshida. He's up to batting 3rd today. He's going to be a low strikeout bat. So I expect Boston's numbers to come precipitously down in terms of the strikeouts that we've seen of late, as guys like Romy Gonzalez aren't going to be in the lineup every single day. Like those are just going to be, there's just going to be less strikeouts available when you have a Yoshida who's a career 13% K guy who's batting 3rd today. It's just going to look so much different.
Yeah, so I agree with you on pretty much everything you said, but most importantly, it's so hard to know what Joe Boyle's workload is going to be like. Are we going to get 4 innings out of him? Are we going to get 5? He did come in as a bulk reliever in his last outing and pitch 5 innings, but so many times these situations could go wayward where the guy who's expected to pitch doesn't even come into the game, or they end up pitching less innings than expected. It's worth taking shots on it depending on the circumstance. For a 15-game slate, that's going to be a pass for me. If it was like a 6 or 7 game slate, I think it would be more of a consideration. Not for me on a 15-game slate, though, Eric. So I'm with you. Joe Boyle, not somebody who I am looking to be contrarian with in the 7K range. Don't worry, though. There are other pitchers who I do like to be contrarian with in the 7K range. Maybe even one of the same guys that you like. I do think that there's a pretty obvious contrarian option in the 7K range. And we'll talk about Chase Burns. Do you think you like the same guy to be contrarian that I do here?
I think so.
Gavin Williams.
It's by far him. If you watched his last start too, holy shit, Gavin Williams looked good. Like, Gavin Williams stuff is legitimately good right now. And I'm not sure how to like take that, because I don't know if you and I have ever been like a Gavin Williams stan by any means, but like, I can't really argue against the fact that like, I could not have been more impressed last time out with like everything that he was capable of doing. And he strikes out lefties at a higher clip, 25.1% K rate. He does have the 182 expected ISO against them, but like knowing that he's going to get this like more lefty heavy White Sox lineup here coming off of, earlier game into this one, you're going to get Tauchman, you're going to get Benintendi, who didn't play in the first game. Kyle Teal should be catching in it. Colson Montgomery for sure should be in that lineup here as well. Josh Rojas, I'd be shocked if he wasn't in it. I think this is going to look pretty good for him overall. And the stuff has been dancing. They ended up using right out of the gate in the first outing, Gaddis and Clase. So like, they don't have their normal guys that are going to be available for the second game. Always in form on doubleheaders. It's been a huge edge for me over the years. Just like what happened, like who just got utilized. I always care about the bullpen arms the most out of anything. And then you can kind of know that, hey, if the catcher was catching in the first one, like Austin Hedges is not going to be catching in the second game. You can just like assume that it's going to be Bo Naylor and project it out that way. But like, that doesn't really give you an edge. It's not like books are looking at that. But the numbers didn't really move for Gaddis and Clase getting utilized in the first game. And now I think Gavin Williams has a chance for more length as a result, because they don't have their normal dudes. So doubleheaders have a huge edge. And I think Gavin Williams, the most likely of these like mid-tier guys to go 6 innings.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Gavin Williams, and he's really struggled to throw strikes this year with a 13% walk rate, but the stuff is still tremendous. And he's got such an easy matchup that I think that there's upside here that makes me want to look at him and go, hey, if we're really looking for contrarian pitchers who aren't just the chalk guys, you get a guy with one of the best matchups possible who is, 4% owned right now, was one of the top pitching prospects in baseball just a couple of years ago. Still only 25 years old, 97 miles per hour, his average fastball velocity. Can you just throw strikes today? If he can't throw strikes, like it's always going to be an issue for him. We've seen some starts where he's only able to go 4 or 5 innings because he's just not able to find the strike zone. But that kind of seems to have the field off of him in a really favorable matchup against the White Sox. You mentioned the doubleheader factor as well. Guardians had to burn a lot of their bullpen, so they might be a little bit more liberal with how deep they allow Gavin Williams to go in this game. And it's not like he's going 4 or 5 innings in some of these starts and only throwing like 70 pitches. He has some of these outings. Like there was one against the Dodgers where I think they let him throw like 106 innings or something to get through 5 innings. I don't remember the exact number. I'll pull it up right here because I'm just going off memory. But he's given a pretty long leash in terms of his pitch counts. His last 2 outings, 97 and 96 pitches. And the one that I was thinking about, the Dodgers, 4 2/3 innings, Eric, 109 pitches. That's the one that I was thinking about there. So some of these spots where he doesn't go deep into games, it's just because he's not economical with his pitch count. It should be a little bit easier to get through the Chicago White Sox. So I like him as a contrarian option. But more importantly, Chase Burns is 40% owned. He's got an ERA north of 8. He's also one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. Electric stuff, fastball that could touch triple digits. What do you want to do with him relative to his ownership against this just terrible Rockies team that should be banned from all main slates?
Yeah, I'm playing him. It's the same thing. I had to ban whatever the fuck his name was because of the Brian Bayo hate. And guess what? I was right. You were wrong. You are dumb. You are banished to the shadow realm, never to be heard from again. It's the same thing here. We're going to play both sides of it. I'm going to play right around the 55% mark. And then I'm going to play some Colorado bats on the other side. So it's not as much. Like I played a little bit more Bayo than that when it was all said and done. The Sims were just jamming him. And then this is another spot. It's just undeniable, Greg. It's the Rockies. Like, do we even have to go over how bad the Rockies are in general? Like, I bet Hunter Goodman over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs, but like that's a different conversation. This is a team with a 26.4% K rate. It's come down a little bit as they've intertwined Estrada, Freeman, guys like that up at the top of the lineup. That's made it a little less strikeout heavy. They've moved Beck down to like, the 7-hole, or Doyle to the 7-hole. It would have been Beck's like still up there. But my point is that there are so many strikeouts available, and then they are the league worst against righties, 75 WRC plus. This kid has shown very live stuff. He ran into a tough outing against the Yankees on the 5th inning after striking out a bazillion dudes, and then goes to the Red Sox. He was a complete no-show, got eviscerated. I really don't care. As you said, how many times are we ever going to run into a guy with over an 8 ERA? But it's warranted in this spot. He's got such good stuff. He throws it 100. He's just going to be able to throw it by these dudes. That's what we've learned. If you can throw it with velocity, these Rockies guys do not catch up to fastballs. They just don't have the acumen. They can't do it.
So there's something that has been really funny about Chase Burns, which, by the way, he's as up and down as the first 3 starts have been, considering the ownership.
How much of him do you have? I don't even see it on the screen. I don't even see it.
Sorry, what's that?
I don't even see him on the screen right now. How much of him do you have in the Sims?
Let's see. He's right here. Yeah, showed up in just under 40% of lineups.
Gotcha. He was not shown. So
yeah, my bad. Yeah, it was cut off by the bottom bar there.
Okay. Continue on.
But anyway, yeah, it was a good call out. So Chase Burns, just play him in cash games today. There has been something really funny that's happened. He's also only made 3 starts, but Chase Burns makes his first start against the Yankees. Yankees are chalk. Chase Burns strikes out 8 hitters, no walks, has a great outing. I believe he was in the winning lineup that night. So then what happens? He makes his next start against the Red Sox, and everybody goes, this kid is the truth. And he's really chalky against the Red Sox. 1/3 of an inning, he gets 1 out and gives up 7 runs. So just gets absolutely lit on fire. So what happens? Everybody goes, you know what? He looked good the first start. He sucked last time out. He's probably not ready for the big leagues. Phillies, 18% owned as a stack in the next start that Chase Burns makes. And 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 run. So it doesn't mean that much. I just think it's funny that if he does get lit up by the Rockies today, it will be 4 starts in a row. His entire big league career, the field has been on the wrong side of Chase Burns. But I think this is one he should be able to find success against the Rockies, just given what his stuff was. So we'll see what ends up happening. I'm going to be on the side of Chase Burns. You and I both like a contrarian pitcher and Gavin Williams here. Anything else you want to add from the 7K range of pitchers?
I debated for a long time whether or not I wanted to talk about Dustin May, and then I just decided I didn't. Like,
okay.
I don't think it's necessary to try to take a dice roll on a kid who has shown moments of absolute glorious stuff and then moments of being an absolute dog doo-doo piece of shit. But I will say sweeper sinker looks really good against these Giants, and this version of Devers who just wants to strike out ad nauseum. You get Chapman back there batting cleanup. That's useful for strikeouts specifically. If you made me play something else in the 7K range that wasn't Williams, that wasn't Burns, who obviously is rightful chalk, I think it would be Dustin May. But I probably should have just not even talked about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of talking about somebody you don't want to talk about.
I have 0 in 50 lineups. But I think he's very interesting. If you're going to so we're going to talk about Ryan Nelson in a second. He's 7,800.
Used to do social media for us. He wasn't great at it, but he used to.
Nobody knows what you're talking about. That's the funniest thing you have ever said. I love you so much. But let's talk about May now. Yeah, Larry C., you should know by now that it's one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I could maybe talk some sense into this one and there's definitely something to be said about the strikeouts in the San Francisco lineup right now. Like, it's obviously a good ballpark to be pitching in. And then there's not a single batter with under a 23% K rate in the top 5. I think that's the reasons you play Dustin May if you want to like try to dice roll something different in there. But I'm not doing it, so I probably shouldn't have talked about it.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Well, we've now talked for 3.5 minutes about somebody you weren't going to talk
Joey
about.
Valentine's watching that. I'm so glad that somebody from work was watching to be able to
listen.
That was the best joke you have ever fired up on stream and ever.
The best jokes are ones that nobody understands and need to be explained. Obviously, that's how most jokes work. But anyway, getting back to some of the other pitchers on the slate, if we go and we look at the cheap end here, Eric, 6K range, anything that stands out to you from these groupings of pitchers?
No, nothing. I think you can play Lance McCullers a little bit, but like I bet is under 15.5 outs. I don't find length to be something like maybe he is well adjusted in the pants. I don't know, but I don't think length is something that I think we're going to be getting from Lance McCullers. Just a hunch.
I'm willing to take shots on Lance McCullers, mostly because he's got strikeout stuff. His velocity is so far down from all the injuries, which makes sense. I mean, this is his first year pitching since 2022, and he only pitched 47 innings due to injury. This is his first healthy season since 2021. So we've not seen a healthy Lance McCullers in 4 years. It's not shocking that his fastball velocity is down 2.5 miles per hour from when he was actually solid. And the results have not been great this year. 5.82 ERA, 4.67 expected ERA. But he has still shown an ability to generate strikeouts. And he is so cheap, Eric. Just so absurdly cheap that I think there's an upside here that we should potentially be taking some shots on. He has also had individual starts. I mean, 7 strikeouts against the Pirates, 12 against the A's, 8 against the Mariners. So there's been times where he's generated those swing and misses. And now that he's all the way down to $6,600, I'm okay taking some shots on Lance McCullers. So we're trying to expand the players that we're willing to take shots on. Is there anything you like sub 6K?
No, but if you're betting WNBA today, which I did pretty heavily, Lexi Hull starting ahead of Ari McDonald. It's a very important piece of news.
There we go. All right.
More important than the 6K range in MLB DFS today. Not a single one of these goobers matters today, Greg. Not a single one. If one of them does, Lance McCullers, I have in 2 of 50 lineups. So I rip if somebody actually ends up putting up 25 plus from this range.
Yeah, so Eric doesn't want to talk about Lexi Hull, so he's not going to. But Eric, what do you think about Lexi Hull?
I think Lexi Hull is an absolute slam as a starter here today. They've obviously had some interesting stuff around this team in general. I think that's to say the very least. If you bet Caitlin Clark to win MVP before the season starts, you should probably never be allowed to bet again. This is the most inflated, ridiculous number I've ever seen. I think she's pretty good. Obviously, I think most people do, but I think Lexi Hull, if you're able to jump in right now, specifically just get to PRA. That's like, again, I don't know much about WNBA, but anytime somebody starts over another person, just grab the PRA immediately. And it's amazing how well that works out for you long-term.
Cream asked in the Discord chat, is he wrong for feeling bad about playing Toronto in half of his lineups? No, I think Toronto's the best overall stack on the slate. Correct. 50% it's a lot for a game, for a slate that is, 15 games on it. So part of it is going to depend on what it is. Like if you're playing 4 lineups, you got the Blue Jays in 2 of them. Cool. If you are playing 150 lineups and you have 75 Blue Jays stacks, that's probably a little excessive. So there'd be a little bit more context needed there. But yeah, if you're just playing a handful of lineups and the Blue Jays are in half of them, that's totally fine. I do think they're the best overall stack that we have going for us today. And I also agree with you. I don't think there's anything we need to be punting with below the 6K range. Luis Severino, Chris Flexen, Herman Marquez, Ryan Berger. That is a no for me. FanDuel side of things, really quick here. We've got pretty spread out ownership there as well. There's not a single pitcher more than 20% owned. The most popular pitchers, Chase Burns is 17% owned. Scooball 17% owned. Joe Ryan is 18% owned. Eric, if you were building a cash game lineup, which of these 3 pitchers would you play on a single pitcher site like FanDuel?
Probably.
I'm just going to say Chase Burns because he's way cheaper than the other 2 guys.
but I mean, he's going to be so mega chalk. Like,
But I said for cash games.
Oh, cash games. Yeah. You play Chase Burns. Done. It's Chase Burns. And then, yeah, the expensive. I mean, Tariq Skubal is your cash game pitcher any day that he is pitching on FanDuel. Like that. I understand salary is a thing, but like the number of times Skubal isn't going to put you up 40 in any specific outing is like an asinine low number. So like, don't play anybody but Skubal in cash.
Oh, no, I like Chase Burns in cash.
You do?
Yeah. For the price point and what I assume is going to be pretty heavy ownership, I go Chase Burns for FanDuel cash. Matchup against the Rockies.
I would actually play Joe Ryan over Chase Burns in cash.
Okay.
Chase Burns is such an unknown. You're embracing a lot of unknown to some extent. Like the strikeout upside is, I mean, he could strike out 12. Like he really, really could. But the downside for him outweighs Skubal and Ryan by a metric ton, in my opinion, like for cash games.
So now I'm curious. Does that mean for tournaments, you're taking some shots on the Rockies?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely taking shots on the Rockies. Like I already said, I bet Hunter Goodman. I think Hunter Goodman is a very good, serviceable major league bat. Do I think I want to bet Mickey Moniak and Jordan Beck and Michael Togli? Like I don't trust this team whatsoever as far as I can throw them. Outside of Tyler Freeman, who never strikes out, there are strikeouts abound in this thing. But Chase Burns, the other thing that I bet in this game, over 1.5 walks for Chase Burns. I think that's a little bit interesting as well. We've seen some clear lapses in, like, he gets behind in counts and he really doesn't locate very well behind in counts and either leaves stuff out over the plate and gets knocked up like we saw against Boston. That was a lot of like 2-1, 3-2, 3-2 or 3-1 counts that we saw. Gets a lot of those walks going. And that's something that showed up a little bit in the AAA level for him here too. So like Chase Burns is really good. He has tons of upside, which is why we're going to be firing him up the way that we are over on DK on a 2-pitcher site. But on a 1-pitcher site, I think it would be foolish to play Chase Burns instead of Joe Ryan or Tariq Skubal just because of what we know about them.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick to my guns and say Chase Burns for.
I feel like we should almost play a head-to-head on FanDuel right now. This would be a perfect time for you and I to like go mano a mano.
Loser has to be on top.
Oh, I'm building this out right now. I've never been more turned on. I mean, excited. No, I mean, I'm looking forward to this.
Any contrarian pitchers you like on FanDuel? Because outside of Burns, Skubal, Joe Ryan, everybody else is 5% owned or lower. So if you're taking somebody from not the top 3 group of popular pitchers, what's the direction you'd want to go on FanDuel? Keep in mind, there's no Gavin Williams. The Guardians White Sox game, not on the FanDuel slate.
So this is probably ridiculous because he can't even get the quality start. We just got done poo-pooing Joe Boyle. He's 6,400. I haven't seen a pitcher 6,400 that was like serviceable in a while. He's got by far our top value score. And I do not think he ends up popular. Like maybe that's a spot to roll the dice on. Like Joe Boyle goes further than you think, 5 innings, gets 7 strikeouts. Like if you just plugged and played his first 2 outings for the Rays up against Boston, which I repeat, it's not as good of a strikeout matchup as it was a week ago. Like Masataka Yoshida is not going to strike out. He is not a strikeout guy. And now he's going to be batting 3rd today. That's a big issue. But what Joe Boyle does is he gives you access to all of the bats that playing Ryan Skubal Burns does not allow for. So like, I think there's a case to be made for maybe rolling him out there. It's such an interesting thing because like I have zero interest in playing him at 7,600 on DK, but 6,400 on DK. If he goes 5 innings, gets you 7-8 strikeouts, that looks good.
Yeah. FanDuel you meant, by the way.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was just saying I had zero interest in playing him on DK. It's just zero.
So for FanDuel purposes, if I'm looking to get to somebody who's a little bit more contrarian, I'm going to actually answer somebody who I just said I think is reasonable as a contrarian option on DraftKings. That's Lance McCullers at $7,800. Very cheap price point for him. And not all that likely you're going to get the 6 innings out of him for the quality start. But I do think we should get 5 innings out of him. He's got the strikeout upside. $7,800 is also a really, really cheap price point for FanDuel. I still prefer Joe Ryan, Scooball, and Chase Burns overall. But if I had to take somebody who's low owned, I'm okay taking shots on a 4% owned Lance McCullers as well. Eric, let's talk some stats now. We've talked about pitchers. Now let's talk about some of our favorite offenses for the day. And nothing's all that popular. So we can kind of just get to whatever it is that we like for the slate when we're not going to have to be worried about a team being 30% owned or 20% owned or anything like that. So if you're just playing one lineup, which directions you want to go with the stack in it?
So it has to be Toronto, just like from the get-go. If you're building one to save your soul, I mean, this has been breaking my brain all day. And we got the lineup while we were on the show. I uploaded it, and they just look even better. I didn't know how they were going to handle the back half of the lineup. Loperfido is batting 9th. We had him projected 7th earlier in the day. We'll see. Will Wagner is in batting 7th. Ernie Clement batting 8th. But 1 through 6 is exactly what you'd expect against lefties. They have a 6.5 implied run total in Vegas. And I thought the numbers were asinine. 2 of my 4 Lindy's long balls today over on X at Eric Lindquist. If you guys want to follow, just literally my name right there over on X. You guys go follow there. I do my top home run plays of the day over there. We've been profitable throughout the entire MLB season. And I think Toronto is just still undervalued in the marketplace. Addison Berger, George Springer batting second, DHing today, which is always nice to see him DHing, not having to deal with, actually doing anything else other than a hit. You've got Nathan Lukes, who just, is basically your on base guy. You get some savings in the back half of the lineup, and none of these guys are all that expensive, Greg. There's nothing cost prohibitive outside of Vlad Guerrero and George Springer 5.5 and 5.3 respectively. And Wagner at 2.4 being in their first base, third base eligible. That just makes this stack so easy to put together.
Yeah, I think the Blue Jays look really good. They're 8% owned, so not really concerned about what the ownership is. They show up more in the Sims than any other team. I think the Blue Jays are the best overall stack on the slate. One other thing, too, that I think is pretty funny overall about the Blue Jays in this situation. Luis Severino, do you remember the comments he made a couple of weeks ago?
I hate pitching at home, yes.
Yeah, he's just like, I hate pitching here. And then it came out, the A's cannot wait to trade Luis Severino ahead of the trade deadline. And he's just continued to be in the starting rotation and pitch poorly for them ever since then. So he said, I don't want to be here. The team has said, cool, we don't want you to be here. He also inked just a few months ago the largest contract in Athletics team history. The whole thing, just super weird player that they were like, here's who we're going to throw. We haven't spent money at all in the entire history of our existence. We've figured it out. We're spending money on Luis Severino. He inked the contract and was like, fuck you guys, I want to be here. And they were like, we don't like you. Why have this contract even come to be? The whole thing is crazy to me. But either way, he clearly doesn't like pitching there. And I understand why he doesn't like pitching there. It is an extremely hitter-friendly ballpark. And I guess the pricing algorithms on DraftKings and FanDuel, nobody told them yet, because the pricing remains pretty cheap on a lot of these teams when they end up in Sacramento and they end up being really good options and project really well and come out really highly in the Sims as a result of it. So Blue Jays, I do think that's the best overall looking stack for the entire slate. And any other teams that are really high priorities for you for today? I do, you guys could see on screen here when I ran the Sims, I got really spread out with offense exposure, but I want to know from you, what else is important?
I think Tampa Bay is the most under-owned stack, period. Hunter Dobbins, followed by Boston middle relievers. Like, we don't want to deal with anybody who's good, and Boston definitely has people who are good inside of that pen. One guy in particular that Greg's pointed out in the betting markets, but I definitely think there are ways where Hunter Dobbins gets completely shelled here. And Tampa Bay's just flat out got power and speed, and they've got a number of different factors like, I don't know, Jake Mangum. It's not going to impress you that he's up there. He does no power basically whatsoever, but boy, oh boy, does that guy get on. Boy, does he run. He's just like the best way to describe him, and I've said this to my wife, he's a try-hard. Like, he's one of those guys who goes out, feels like every high school baseball coach's son. That's Jake Mangum up there. But he's going to put up fantasy points in terms of steals and just putting himself on base, moving the line, playing solid baseball. Junior Caminero, the GOAT, who kind of maybe changed my home run fortunes yesterday. Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz hitting it into the green monster a couple of times, just direct line drives on the B line. Chandler Simpson with his stolen base upside that nobody's going to play at 4.5K, and I am. I think Tampa, 4.7 implied run total. There's so many teams that look like that, but they're the lowest owned of everybody. So Tampa Bay, a team that I have nuked up in the Sims.
I understand why your wife limits the amount of lineups you could play when you go out to dinner, because she's sitting there being like, "Oh no, he's going to start talking about Jake Mangum again at dinner."
Yeah.
And so
I
that's
did.
the reason why. Just that's
No,
what.
but here's the thing.
There's no way your
Reactively,
wife gives a shit when you're telling her about Jake Mangum.
so my wife and I's thing. So I'm usually out here in my tiny house betting all day, doing whatever until, like infinity o'clock, whatever. Every single time the Angels are ahead in a baseball game, I sprint inside during the ninth inning and I turn it on so that she can cheer against Kenley Jansen. She hates Kenley Jansen more than anybody else in baseball because she's been a Dodger fan her whole life. And she feels as though Kenley Jansen was this awful, terrible, horrible, no good, very bad cloud over top of the Dodgers for like a decade, which was not the case. I tried to remind her how good he was. It's just that he failed at very inopportune times during her fandom. So that's been our bonding experience the last couple of years. Whichever team Kenley Jansen's on, whenever he goes into close, I just sprint inside and turn it on, like whatever garbage she's watching, and she just actively cheers against him. It's fun.
Perry Fernandez said any weather concerns for any significant pitchers. Not that's making me change anything. The weather isn't 100% safe in the Seattle game. So the Seattle-Detroit game. So there is a little bit of risk associated with Tariq Skubal, but not anything that's making me, make any kind of alterations to exposures or lineups or anything like that. For me, you mentioned it briefly. Well, I had asked you, I was kind of queuing you up for it, but the Colorado Rockies, as bad as they are as an offense, they're going up against a pitcher who so far in his big league career has an ERA north of 8, and he's going to be 40% owned today. So that in itself, and also, super favorable hitting environments in Cincinnati. So I think it's worth taking some shots on the Colorado Rockies as a leverage stack for that particular purpose. Another team that stands out to me, the Milwaukee Brewers against Mitchell Parker. And also now any team you're talking about that isn't like Toronto is pretty contrarian. Everything else is sub 5% owned. But you got the Milwaukee Brewers going up against Mitchell Parker. There's a good amount of talent in the Milwaukee Brewers offense. And Mitchell Parker is not a pitcher that I think is any good whatsoever, Eric. Mitchell Parker this year, 4.72 ERA, 5.39 expected ERA, 38% ground ball rate. He walks guys, doesn't get strikeouts, 9% walk rate, 15.5% strikeout rate. So I think the Brewers look pretty good against Mitchell Parker.
I agree with that.
Any other teams that there's so many teams who threw the Sims once again to show the stack exposures here. There's so many teams that were like, all right, 4% of, 5% of, 6% of, and that'll happen on a slate of 15 games when I kind of run everything through. So there aren't too many teams where I'm like, oh, this is a must play team to load up on or anything like that. But any other teams that you are finding to be pretty important to your lineups?
Yeah, I've got a number. I think the Athletics are an awesome stack as well. Max Scherzer, we saw just return back to like some type of Max Scherzer look for a day. And I was definitely on the Max Scherzer side of that one, so that felt good. But this is a fly ball pitcher, Greg, in 98-degree weather with the wind blowing out with AAA dimensions. He's had 4 starts. He hasn't gone outside of 83 pitches in any one of them. So maybe he's not even long for this one. And Toronto turns it over to a bullpen that has obviously been performing over the course of the last couple of weeks in this huge run that they've gone on. But Max Scherzer, I do think 40 years old. I mean, we could look at him as like Justin Verlander going back in. It's kind of the same situation to me. It's an extreme fly ball pitcher who just is going to pitch more to contact going forward in his career. Like there's just Father Time's undefeated. I really think the A's are interesting as well. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm highlighting 2 stacks, Tampa Bay and the Athletics, that are just really low owned that I find to be interesting. But I think the main thing to point out is what you did. Like the Sims are really spreading it out. And it's on one of these slates where we have no Coors Field. We do have that pronounced chalk at pitcher. And one of them justified, I think, Tariq Skubal. And I'm not saying it's unjustified, looking at Cincinnati and what we've seen from Burns so far, Chase Burns. But I do think Colorado's interesting. You brought that up. I don't really want to find any leverage on Pittsburgh or Minnesota. I think they're pretty unnecessary to fire up. Oh, Cleveland against Jonathan Cannon. We just got a slimmed down White Sox pen as well. They ended up going to Tyler Alexander, used one of their lefties for 3 innings of work, so he's not coming back. Ellard as well. So they have their main 2 guys, but in the event that they're getting shelled, which is a very realistic possibility in this matchup, Gavin Williams versus Cannon here, I think you could really, run into a spot where the Cleveland Guardians end up really low owned, and Martinez has like second base outfield eligibility. There's a lot of really interesting stacks like that on this slate.
I have no data to support this, talking out of my ass, but it just kind of logically seems true to me. I have to think there's no situation where you're more likely to see a position player pitch in a game than the second part of a doubleheader. So if you do get a team that has like a 6-7 run lead in the later stages of a game, I think this is one of these scenarios where you'd be way more likely to see a backup third baseman all of a sudden on the mound or something like that, which does add a little bit of extra appeal to me for the Cleveland Guardians, already going up against a depleted bullpen. Good matchup against Jonathan Cannon as well. The White Sox, by the way, their lineup, I know you just mentioned it there, but boy, what a shitty lineup on paper. Tauchman, Sosa, Benintendi, Vargas, Teal, Robert, Montgomery, Rojas, Robertson. So Gavin Williams, I remain on him as a contrarian.
Playing in single entry. Yeah, it's him and Skubal for me, single entry.
Okay.
Pay attention to the Detroit weather. That's gotten brought up a couple of times. News God just sent me something as well. So shout out News God, El Negro Loco in the chat. But I wanted to bring that up because, Skubal is very important to me today, and I'm sure to you as well.
Yeah, and let's also touch on really quick, Cincinnati Reds, the only other team that's more than 5% owned. Herman Marquez is a 5.84 ERA, a 5.05 expected ERA. Herman Marquez was really good a very long time ago. If you go back like 7 years, Herman Marquez, I wanted him so badly to be out of Colorado because I thought he could have had a really nice career. And now he's just going to be a guy who, like, mid-4s ERA for his career, expected ERA just under 4 for his career. But so much of that is inflated because of his time at Coors Field. But he's also pretty washed at this point. He missed pretty much all of the last couple of seasons. He made 1 start in 2024, 4 starts in 2023. And Herman Marquez so far this year has seen diminished velocity, 5.84 ERA, 5.05 expected ERA. Any spot that he's in that isn't Colorado is a park upgrade for him, but this one just barely pitching in Cincinnati. So the Reds offense, 6% owned by the field, but I actually think they warrant a little bit more exposure than that.
Agreed. I think that's a good one.
Anything else you want to bring up as far as stacks go?
Nah, not really. I think we got it covered. Wondering what anyone thinks about Bregman being back. He hits it high. That's a very good characteristic when you're a righty playing in Boston. We see righties who hit it high really succeed in Boston because it is not that far over the left field fence if you hit it high. If you hit it low, you run into a lot of doubles and a lot of singles off of walls if you're slow, like Ramirez at the tail end of his career.
Want to remind you guys that if you want to sign up for any of the packages here at Stokastic, including baseball, I know there's no baseball next week, but what happens if you're a Stokastic sub for MLB next week? Here's what happens. You're going to get access to all the other sports that we have here. No baseball, no problem. You're going to get access to our PGA sims for free, our MMA sims for free, our NASCAR sims for free. So we still have you covered, even if you're on a baseball-only subscription. So sign up for any of those through those links down below in the description box. You're planning on playing MLB DFS this weekend. And don't worry, you'll get to try out some other sports next week as well if you're an MLB sub. If you want to sign up for any of our affiliates, here's the list of all of the partners we have in the link join program. There's a link down below in the YouTube description box. You follow all the steps there, sign up for a site, use the promo code, email NewsGod. It gets you set up with a free sub. Also, if you're confused at all and need help, you can DM me on Twitter. There's a handful of people that I've helped out this week by directing them to links and promo codes. So that's also an option for you. Super chat, by the way, from Steve McGee. Who do the Sims like today? Vlad or De La Cruz? Obviously different positions, both, but Vlad I prefer overall.
I do too. I prefer the Toronto spot. I prefer having later lineups to some extent, but let me pull up how much Ellie De La Cruz I ended up with because
both are really strong options.
They're both really good options. I mean, 11.8 we're projecting Ellie for. I've got 14% of him, and Vlad I've got 33% of. So Vlad's my third highest owned batter.
1-2 in the chat said he replaced all of his burns with May, and then he's going to quit doing drugs after this. Well, don't do that. Why ruin your life and make a rash decision like that? That's nonsense. Don't say
kids don't buy drugs. Become a pop star and you get them for free. Love Actually.
I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too. All right, let's see. What do we have for
Rick.
no other questions from Discord? So, Eric, any other final thoughts you want to bring up at offense? If not, we do some dong picks.
Yeah, let's go to the dong, to dong, dong, dong.
All right, guys, it is dong time to bring us into the weekend. And then Eric and I are going to be doing a show together for another week because we got the MLB All-Star break. Saturday, that's tomorrow, I'll be doing a show with EMAC. Sunday, that's 2 days from now, Eric is going to be doing a show with Eric, double Eric show. So they'll be together on Sunday. And then, yeah, no baseball shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday because of the All-Star break. And then Eric and I will be back together on Friday. So last time we're doing dong picks together for a minute here. Eric, what do you like for dongs today?
Springer Dinger, baby. 307 expected ISO against righties in 251 plate appearances this season. He really never strikes out. Sub 20% strikeout rate against righties as well. Not that Severino can do it. He brings a 15.4 degree launch angle to the table. And then Severino, only 11.7 degree launch angle allowed to lefties batted ball in play, but against righties, 14.6. So you get it higher up against righties. Springer's been on fire. He's DHing batting second. And boy, oh boy, did I get an amazing number on him. Plus 415 today. Yeah. Give me all of that and a bag of potato chips. And then in DFS, he is my second highest owned batter. Will Wagner, my highest owned batter. What a time to be alive. But yeah, George Springer, dong of the day.
All right. I see some of the picks from chat are starting to roll in. And
what's yours?
Eric, I've got to go with our last show together here. He's already a hitter I like a lot. He's old faithful. How can I go with Vlad Guerrero Jr., the guy who's given me the most success for home run picks this year? I got to go with Vlad. I know last night my pick technically got voided because I went with Luis Robert, but I feel like I'm on a hot streak because in the same matchup he did homer today, so I'm counting it as a win in my book. But today, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from chat. Trey McKell is going with Kyle Stowers. Mike Campbell has got Ellie De La Cruz. We've got Steve McGee going with Wilson Contreras. Chris Albers has Augustin Ramirez. We've got, somebody one-upping me. Bo Goodgreens is picking 2 homers for Vlad. Okay. Well, if he homers twice, you win and I lose. Sunflower's got Jeff McNeil. Eric 20 has got Jackson Chourio. But Eric 20's got to be watching the show on Sunday because then you get Eric 20 with EMAC and it'll be all kinds of Erics.
That sounds like
Alabama Jones. Yeah. Yeah. It would be... There'd be a sign.
Hello, gamers. Hello, partiers.
There'd be a sign on the door, Eric's only. And that would be after, and there'd be some Eric passcode you got to enter to join the Eric only orgy. Seems like it'd be kind of gay.
I have a joke. I'm going to keep it to myself. I'll tell you after.
All right. Alabama Jones, Kyle Stowers, Casey Leatherwood's got Albies and Bichette. Tom Olson has Matt Olson. Comment God says, all right, Scooball gets so many Ks, it's a home run. I don't think that's how it works. A home run's worth 14 fantasy points. I'd be massively disappointed if Scooball finished with 14 fantasy points. Eric Traub has got Zach Geloff. Dan is going with Trevor Story. We've got, Fistula Poop has got Kurtz, Vlad, and Butler. Zach Justice has got George Springer for 2 homers. We've got Eugenio Suarez from Sir Dodger. We've got Araz from Comer 310. Kyle Manzardo from J Pan. We've got Okeezy going with Judge. We've got Lopper Fido as well. I feel like the Alabama Jones has thrown in like 6 different names individually. But anyway, he also has Joey Lopper Fido here. On the bump is going with Aranda. We've got TJ Friedel from Junior Whopper. Mighty Quinn going with Suzuki. We've got Michael Smith going with Aaron Judge. Gunnar Henderson from Mark. We've got Trey McKell going with Corey. Oh, never mind. This is a question. Seager or Bichette tonight? I prefer Bichette to Seager. That's ironic timing. Then Clintwood 83 pick Corey Seager for his home run pick. We've got Kyle Schwarber from Go Fives, Bryce Harper from Kelsey Williams. We've got Pete Crow Armstrong from K Thumbs, and that is going to wrap it up for us today. If you guys have not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you sign up for any of our baseball packages, next week you're going to get access to all of our other sports packages for free. So as long as you're a baseball sub, it's not like you're not going to get access to anything. So still, you could sign up. Don't have to worry about not getting anything for next week. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'll be on Live Before Lock tomorrow. Eric's going to be on Live Before Lock with Eric on Sunday. And we'll be back together next Friday. So enjoy the All-Star break if you guys are gone over the weekend. Peace.